What's going on? It's your man Kahlee. Welcome to another episode of the Status Escalate podcast, the music business show where I speak with guests about their journey to success in various fields of business. We're not just speaking to musicians and artists, though of course we got those too, but successful craftsmen and entrepreneurs on different levels of their career. We're going to get into their minds and strategies to figure out how they got to where they're at. The idea is to implement some of that info into your own lives and careers, helping you move forward and progress in different areas of your work. This week I'm speaking with my fam, Erik Fontanez, a longtime journalist covering mixed martial arts with a bit of a twist, from the Bleacher Report to Gracie Mag and currently MMA Weekly, plus more. We're going to talk a bit about that, his short time as a Los Angeles underground MC and more. I had some technical difficulties, so I apologize if it seems to jump around a bit, but in the end it's another great episode with a cool, knowledgeable dude. So let's get into my talk with Erik Fontanez.
I put in work and watch my status escalate.
I am Erik Fontanez. I'm a writer and editor, and for the last almost a decade, I've been writing about the sport of mixed martial arts and covering the UFC, Bellator, formerly Strikeforce, and everything else that basically makes waves within the sport of mixed martial arts. I've been trying to stay in tune with it and write about it on the interwebs.
Nice. So that was since what, about like 2010, 09 or something like that?
Yeah, about 2009, midway through 2009, I decided to try, to give a go at being a journalist. And part of that, it stemmed from two things. One, part of me had always been interested in researching and uncovering the truth to things. And the second part of it was just my love of MMA. The sport was something that I really got into in the early to mid 2000s. And, if I felt like I was watching every single bit of it and paying close attention to every single corner of the sport. So I figured it'd be an enjoyable avenue for me to walk down and try to build a profession of writing about it. And, that was way back in 2009, and here we are in 2017, and I'm still doing it. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting, I'm not heavy into the sport, but for starters, I definitely watch it when I can, and I listen to a lot of podcasts that are not straight focused on it, but, something like Joe Rogan or Fighter and the Kid, you can't hear too many episodes without hearing kind of what's going on. So from that standpoint, I stay linked in, and then I'll go through time periods where it's like, there's been some fights. So, often because of who I'm kicking it with or time off, I'm able to watch a lot. But I do know, because I did see like the first couple, I always had the black box, the free cable. So I seen the first few UFCs. Yeah, I didn't start paying for my own cable until I was like a real adult and shit. We ain't gonna get into all the shit that.
Man, that's the story. That's the story of every kid from the hood whose father was like, "Fuck that! I'm not paying for cable anymore." Yeah. And then, they get the black box.
Yeah, we had the black boxes. Even in my own room, I had like the satellite dishes. When that shit was cracking, I had my own, card programmer and things like that. Even went to the DSL for a second, but anyways, got away from that. Nowadays, it's but I know. I mean, even till today, on a lighter note, they just barely are allowing, and I know it's more politics to it, but they're just barely allowed it to be in New York. So, like,
yeah,
at the start of it, I hear people like Rogan talk about it all the time, how when he was first telling people about how he's announcing for UFC, people looked at him like he was an animal in a cage, or better yet, commentating on animals in a cage, which kind of, to a certain extent, that's what it is, but in a whole different way. So back in 2009, would you say that's kind of like when people were more getting open to it? I mean, even in the early 2000s, but on a mainstream level, what made you kind of like, did you just do it for the love, or did you really see that it was a opportunity to be lucrative for you, like to make money off your passion?
No, when I first started getting into MMA, I was one of its biggest critics, and was not sold on the fact that fighting, in a cage was anything that was ever going to be a sport. or not necessarily a sport, but something taken legitimately.
Yeah.
And it dealt with its fair share of criticisms from from the UFC's inception all the way to when I started enjoying it. The thing that really kept me away, like the symbol that really kept me away, was at the time the heavyweight champion was this guy named Tim Sylvia. And Tim Sylvia was just this big old dude, 6'8", but his knees were pointed in. He had saddlebags and a donut around his belly, and he just had like chops and a bro haircut. And I'm just like, this is the guy that we're looking to be like the toughest dude in the world.
Yeah.
Like, nah, man, get out of here with that. I'll still watch Lennox Lewis fight, and I'll be sold on that being the toughest dude in the world. But the more I started to delve into the sport, I discovered, things going on in different areas, most notably Japan, with this organization called Pride Fighting Championships. And Pride, at the time, I believed, held the best heavyweight division in the world.
Did you also believe that it didn't involve steroids? or did you already know that? Or is that stuff you can't talk about?
No. Actually, at that time, I didn't really question whether or not guys were on steroids.
Right,
I mean,
right.
as someone who grew up watching football,
right.
and the Lyle Alzado thing, it's like it's already a given at that point. But
you ever watch WWF and shit like that?
Oh yeah, I just watched WrestleMania last weekend.
Oh, okay. So
and that was I mean, I watch that every so often, not nearly as much as I watch other sports, but
right.
If a big event is on, like WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble, I'll watch it.
What's up, guys? I have to apologize because at this point in the interview, my recording device failed to record, and I wasn't really sure exactly where we left off, but we transitioned from MMA to Erik's time as an artist in the LA Underground. Let's get back into it. Okay, we're back. My bad.
Cool. No worries.
You remember what you were saying?
Yeah, I was talking about how I had a specific message, like you hit it right on the head with the kind of message that I was trying to deliver was there is more to this hip hop music than meets the eye. Yeah. Like there is a culture and it can be delivered so much better, so much more eloquently and with a lot more talent, unique talent. And that's one of the things that I wanted to express through all these rhymes and all these beats to make this music. I didn't think when I started, it was being represented well, but towards the end of my tenure, I felt that it was being done well. Like artists like Common and Most and Talib and all those cats were doing great things and doing it on a mass stage to the point where I felt like, well, my battle's done here. Like I didn't feel like I needed to do it anymore to express that because the battle had been won. So at that point, my music career essentially stopped because I really felt like I had nothing to fight for anymore. And, I think, to this day, people are still going to see the things on TV or in videos or what have you and be like, yeah, this is some whack hip hop. But I think for the most part, it's been expressed and told in a way that people can find the real shit and never have to worry about like hip hop being tainted or stained in a way that isn't true to the culture. Yeah, that can't. I mean, no matter where you go, there's always somewhere where you can go to get that real, and it comes in different flavors as well, just like the mainstream does. How do you feel like all that kind of overflow? Because it seems like you dropped the baton or passed it off and went and grabbed somebody else's baton for like this journalism side of things. And just really started running with that because now you have something you're commentating on it rather than or you're a speaker for it. You're the MMA orator. You're presenting it to the people like a bullhorn. Whereas the hip hop, you were kind of doing it, but to a smaller audience. And had you worked, continue to move towards it, the audience will continue to get bigger. But here you are now at MMA Weekly. And when you write something, people are, checking it out. And it's almost like, I mean, do you feel like it's anywhere the same thing? I think I'm more successful. Like, if we're talking about growth and the size of the audience, I think I'm more successful in my efforts in journalism and covering MMA than I was in doing hip hop music. And that might have a lot to do with the fact that social media is so much of a player nowadays that you didn't have that kind of thing when we first started doing music. And it was very much about networking and talking to people and trying to get to as many stage shows as possible. Like that was really what the hustle was all about. And I'm not saying that's not what it's about nowadays. Like you still very much have to do that, but like the social media reach is just so much longer than the physical reach.
At that time, MySpace was just starting to pop off. The blogs that are big now were just like starting, Well, what about also you got in early? I mean, there was a time those people you mentioned like Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Common, they would drop a single that would go platinum, vinyl going platinum, thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars off of a single. Now it still happens these days, but in a different way. So we missed that. Musically, we got into the hip hop scene after that was already on its downfall and MP3s were coming into the picture. And with the MMA thing, I mean, I'm not so deep into it to where I know, but there was a time where it was not accepted as a mainstream art form people still don't see it as an art form. I mean, especially not Meryl Streep, but ultimately, going back to, even though it was politics involved in that, I know, but New York just made their, city available for MMA.
That's right.
You got in there in a time where, I don't know how many people were out there for that same job for Bleacher Report, because you're the first person. Were you the first person who brought MMA to the Bleacher Report?
No, I wasn't. I came in very early, and there were people that had done it before, but I was I eventually worked my way up to become the content manager there for MMA.
Right.
Where they had one dude there before, and in fact, the guy that pushed for me to keep doing it and to grow and to cover MMA on a bigger front, he was the content manager there before, and then when he stepped down, Bleacher Report asked him, okay, who do you think should take your place? And he said Erik Fontanez.
Nice. So,
at that point, they came to me and they said, we'd like to offer you this. Can you do it for us? And I said, absolutely. So, I started covering the sport, and, it just kind of grew from there.
In all the places that you've been and all the pieces that you've written or interviews that you've, done with people, what are some of the biggest ones, like your favorites that may or may not be big to anybody else, like just special to you? And then at the same time, maybe some big stories that you yourself broke. You're the first person that kind of put it out there, if any.
Man, I've had countless interviews to the point where there were times where I don't even, I might have done the interview and you might have to remind me that I did it. Because, I've interviewed everybody from Dana White to Randy Couture to Fedor himself. Who else? John Jones. I've talked to him. Ronda Rousey, I've had a few interviews with. Actually, come to think of it, I did write a feature one time on Ronda. I went and met her at her gym out in the Valley. And we were talking about how this is her 10 o'clock appointment, and she needed to get through this workout at 10:20. And then after that, she's got a meeting with HBO, and, it became this whole, like, I am so busy right now. I did not anticipate this kind of stuff growing up being an Olympic judo practitioner. Right. Now I'm dealing with all this stuff, and this is how I'm dealing with it. And that's ultimately what the story was about, like how she went from, being this simple girl who had Olympic dreams to being this superstar of sorts that was making her UFC debut. So that was one of my favorites, just because I was able to sit there with her and talk about things and then watch her do her workout. I got a real intimate, exclusive portrait of what it's like to be in a day in the life of Ronda Rousey. So that was pretty cool.
That was like leading to her debut.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was before her UFC debut in 2013 against Liz Carmouche.
Wow, what a trip.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. What do you
Or
feel
2012. I don't remember. The years are...
Yeah, I feel you. Everything's kind of like a blur. 2012, 2017. We're old. Anyways, what is like, what about events? What are some like that stick out in your head to where if your son wakes, 10 years from now and he's so into it and all this, and you could, you're sitting there and you're watching whatever TV channel or, probably some app on the TVs that we're going to be watching at that time. And you're like, man, this right here, I was there. Or look, you can see my head right here, something like that. Or like just these big events that are going to always forever stick out in your mind as being special to you. Just special in the eyes of MMA period, but also just to you.
I think one of the it wasn't a moment, it was a group of moments that stuck out to me was the fact that I was able to in person watch the rise of Brock Lesnar in the UFC. I went to UFC and I can't keep track of the numbers at this point.
Yeah, it is.
But all the UFCs that saw him fight guys like Shane Carwin and Cain Velasquez and people like that. Like I went to those fights and I was sitting cage side for an in-person view of what it was like to see Brock Lesnar fight.
Wow.
And Brock Lesnar, as you know, or you might know, is in the WWE now. Prior to his UFC run, he was in the UFC, prior to his UFC run, he was in the WWE as well, and he had a lot of notoriety as this big hulking figure that is just like physically dominant. And he went to the UFC and then won the heavyweight championship, which a lot of people felt was unheard of. And I think I wrote a column at one point when I was at Bleacher Report saying that Brock Lesnar has the potential to be the UFC heavyweight champion for a really long time. And it was because he was such a unique athlete. Like, this was a guy that was NCAA champion, national champion in 2000, had this like unreal physique, something that looks like straight out of a comic book. And that kind of size shouldn't move the way he moves. It was kind of like Shaq. Remember how Shaq was just so physically dominant, and he was able to do things like
those spin moves, man.
Yeah, those spin moves. Like this athleticism is like something you never see. Brock Lesnar was that for me. He has this big physique and all this size, and he's able to move with such agility, such quickness. Thing I think set him apart from the other heavyweights in the UFC at the time.
There's definitely a toughness. If there's one thing that I really respect about WWF, and I'm going to continue to call it that, by the way, is the fucking agility and the toughness and what they go through, every single day fighting with broken bones. And, the negative side of it would be the consequences of having to get hooked on pain pills because you got to take pain pills or whatever kind of thing to deal with the pain. But getting through that and being able to be successful in that field, especially on that level, if you got what it takes to be a real fighter, then you definitely have what it takes to get far up there. Not every time, of course, but like you're saying, Brock Lesnar is a great example of it. Of course, I'm not going to pretend this motherfucker ain't on steroids, or at least wasn't leading up to Mark Hunt or something else. But all that aside, he definitely, I agree with you, man. He has what it takes, but I like to see it consistently without that. And a little less of the star-studded, ball cuffing, because I feel like they cuffing his balls while they help him into the, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man, let him get up in there and do his thing. You don't gotta treat him like a baby and shit, and just or keep the silver spoon in his mouth on his way through. But whatever.
But I think the problem with Brock, and this relates to both the UFC and the WWE or WWF in your case. Is that he is not the most eloquent speaker, and he's not the best salesman on the mic. And that's one of the things that people, on the real, that's one of the things that people forget, is that you have to be able to talk to a large audience. Like, bravo to you for being able to smash a dude. But if you can't talk to the people you just did that in front of, you're going to have a tough time selling pay-per-views and being being a marketable athlete, because there, as much as this is a sport, the other side of it is it's entertainment. And, I think that's the reason why Brock now in the WWE has Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is an expert talker and can sell could sell ice to an Eskimo. So he's walking Brock Lesnar to the ring every time. And before Brock talks, you have Paul Heyman in there saying Brock Lesnar and just like selling it to the crowd. So if not everybody has a Paul Heyman, and if you don't have a Paul Heyman, you're going to have to do well on the mic, or else you're going to have some trouble, no matter how good you are.
It's also very to stick to the wrestling side of things. It's very reminiscent of the old days. I mean, to me, when you had the Mr. Fuji's or the Lou Albanos or the Bobby Heenans and the Jimmy Mouths, you know what I mean? Like, man, that was something. That was really something. That. And then you had the Ted DiBiase's who had like their Virgil and what was homegirl that he jacked from Dusty Rhodes? Didn't he jack homegirl from Dusty Rhodes? Or am I mixing stuff up?
No. Yeah, he did.
If I heard it, I would know it. Anyways,
forgot her name, though.
Yeah, but that whole. It was one or the other. They had that guy there and shit. And I feel like you're saying, they really balance it out with somebody like him. I mean, I don't watch him much these days, but I get it and I heard him. I mean, personally, I'm sure if I watched more, don't crucify me, wrestling fans, but I feel like Paul Heyman, really rewriting books out of Paul Bearer's, book. I see that it's a clear difference, but maybe it's because I'm from the outside looking in now. It really seems like he's a derivative of that cat. But anyways, I think we're getting too deep into the wrestling. I really wanted to get into your mind a little bit about that and kind of see where you're at with, some of your favorites and some of the things that you've done, as far as writing and. Before we get into these questions, is there anything coming up that you're really looking forward to, with MMA Weekly or Hot Sauce or anything else that you got going on, just like coming around the corner and you can't wait?
Actually, I'm covering UFC 210 tonight. By the time this publishes, UFC 210 will probably be done. But it's a fight card with Daniel Cormier defending his light heavyweight title against Anthony Johnson. So I think that's going to be, somebody's going to get hurt in that, I think. Right. So that's going to be good. And then I'm working this weekend on a column ranking my favorite throwback basketball sneakers. Ooh. So, that's something that I wanted to write about. What's your favorite Jordan? About. My favorite Jordan?
Let's say two. Your favorite shoes. Your two favorite J's.
My two favorite J's are the 11s, which are the patent leather ones, the with the black, basically the Space Jams. Uh-huh. He wore those in the first year he came back, wearing number 45. So those and probably. I'm going to say it's a tie between the 12s and the 6s. The 6s had the two square holes in the tongue, and the 12s were the ones that kind of had like a shell design to them to the back.
Yeah, I mean, I fucks with the 6s. I even fuck with the 11s. But
you don't fuck with the 11s?
No, I do. I'm saying I fuck with the 6s. I fuck with the 11s. I mean, the 12s, the 12s was my high school, if I remember correctly. And I mean, it's not like I wouldn't wear them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy. Like, there's a lot of them I will rock. Don't get me wrong. And I'm really digging, I think they're the PEs or something like that. If with the right color combination, those are not things that I would ever have rocked in the past, but I would really fuck with those. But my shit are the 1s, the 3s, and the 4. I go 1, 4, 3. That's my order.
1, 4, 3. A lot of people like the 3s. Yeah. I don't see the appeal.
I think, with me, I'm a real like sleek fucking, like I prefer my shit to be low key but dope. Like I always had an all blacked out. I used to have a blacked out Eclipse. The windows everything was murdered the fuck out. You know what I mean? And it looked dope, but I guess some would argue to say that's not low key, but you know what I mean, right? Like sleek, smooth. Yeah. It ain't like bells and whistles. It ain't, orange Lamborghini or nothing like that. And I feel like the 3s, in a way, of course, it depends on the style and shit, but it kind of resembles that. And then as far as the 4s, the 4s were the first Jordans I ever had, and I remember them when I was in elementary school. And
nostalgia.
I like that little triangle shit on the side, you know, where the lace is going. But then, of course, the ones, man, people don't even counterfeit. Like, all these different shoes make their own versions of the ones too. It's like, wow, you know. But 143 is my order, and I'm trying to get some PEs right now. But man, I don't know. It just depends on the color combo, dude. Because sometimes they look too. This is just not my thing. But if the combo is right, I fucks with them. Okay. Anyways, on that note, let's go to a break. We'll come back. Status Escalate Podcast. What's going on? It's your man Kahlee, and I want to tell you about my sponsor, DeadStockCloset.com. Dead Stock Closet specializes in vintage gear and accessories of all styles and brands. Shop at DeadStockCloset.com and receive your purchase hand-cleaned, ironed, and ready to wear. Use the coupon code SE-Podcast at checkout and get 10% off your purchase, plus an additional discount on your next one. DeadStockCloset.com. Vintage flyness straight to your doorstep. And for any artists looking to gain exposure, check out StatusEscalate.com. Status Escalate is a PR company who's spreading the word on new up-and-coming hip-hop artists for years. Go to the contact section at StatusEscalate.com to discuss a package and rates. Let them know you heard about them through our podcast and get 50% off your first project. And that's at StatusEscalate.com. And lastly, don't forget to check out 2Mex Hologram Radio at 2mexhologram.com. The 24-hour hip-hop radio channel with shows like Proof of Life Radio, The Friday Up, and more. Fresh and rare hip-hop 24 hours a day. Available on TuneIn Radio or stream it directly from 2mexhologram.com. 2Mex Hologram Radio. Everything is about to change. Now let's get back to the show.
I put in work and watch my status escalate.
Status Escalate, we're back with my man Nameless, Erik Fontanez. It's great to talk to you. It's been so damn long, sir. I'll be seeing seeing your pictures, your wonderful family. You know, people like us that still blessed to have the same, you know, people around us, the same significant others for so long. How long you been with your lady, if you don't mind me asking?
Man, it's 14 years now, I think. We've been together. 2 children. Good life, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely something, man. I think, you know, the point to this show, as I broke down to you earlier, is really like, I guess, talking about how we reach whatever level of success we feel we're on. Sometimes others may disagree and think we're lower on the totem pole than we may think. Because sometimes they look at us like, man, you really got what I want in your field, you know. And to be able to talk about how we got there, how we balance life's, you know, apples, machetes, and chainsaws, if you know what I mean, because we juggling, and you know, kind of get into it like that, and really just be like, well, this is kind of the things that I do, and somebody's listening like, oh shit, because I got 2 kids and, you know, I got so much going on, but this is helping me kind of, let me try this and see how it helps, you know? And that's basically what the show is kind of about. And these questions is to get into that. So with all that being said, and, you know, keeping the family in mind, you don't have to speak on that, but, you know, with me, it's always something. It's always, how do I juggle these things with the family there, you know, and not let the apples and the machetes cross, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But do you have any daily routines?
Yeah. Every morning I get up. I'm the first one in the house to get up, and before I head out on my day, when I'm rocking my 12s, because I love my 12s. When I'm all suited up, I make sure to give my wife and my kids a kiss goodbye every single time.
Right.
I never leave the house unless I do that. If I leave the house and I didn't do that, I'm probably turning right back around and doing it. So that's a daily routine for me. And then also opening up Twitter. Like, for some reason, like, instinctually, I feel like I have to open up Twitter just to know what's going on in the world at that moment, so I can prepare myself for whatever it is I need to deal with that day.
You hit that search bar, see what's hashtagging.
Yeah, I see what hashtagging. I've opened the memories to see what's really popping.
A couple years ago and shit, like, oh, I was eating at this place.
Yeah, I check my mentions, and then I see how many people unfollowed me that day. You know, that's a daily thing for me.
Fuck 12.
Like
I ain't following you no more. Yeah. Not fuck with 12s too, though. Anyways,
it's all about the
cool.
4s.
You know what's crazy? Do you have a lot of friends who don't kiss their family goodbye like that, or that, because the way you said it, I feel you. But there were situations, like, for instance, I don't know if you're like this, but I say I love you all the time, every phone call, everything. And to me, it's not anything out of the ordinary, except for when I'm around friends who don't do it, and I'm like, oh wow, it's a little different. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been with my wife for, damn near 16 years. But do you find a lot of people that don't do that?
I don't. I've never really paid close attention to whether or not people do it. One of the things that I've tried to focus on is, I do it because I want to do it.
Right.
Like I don't do it because other people do it or don't do it.
Right.
I very much have my own life. And, if they don't do it and they criticize me for doing it, that's on them.
That's the weird shit.
That's a them problem, not my problem.
That's a YP, not an MP. Boogie Nights. Anyways, I hear you, man. I hear you. Do you have any life hacks?
Life hacks?
Anything, dog. It could be like to get into the bathroom first. That's the reason why you're the first one up. You know what I mean? It could be, getting gas early in the morning because you're saving a little bit more money. They say the gas expands with heat, so you get the gas early. I'm just throwing shit out there. It could be something small or something big, but the point is, this is something that helps you save time or helps you be a little bit more effective or productive in your life.
It's funny. I'm not sure if this qualifies as a life hack, but it's something I very, very recently thought about and felt, affected my life every day. Being a grown-up, being an adult, from my perspective, a father and a husband, there is a lot of pressure, a lot of stress that comes from that. And I'm sure you could relate to that, being a father and husband yourself. So, and the thing that I want to do is I want to always ensure that my wife and kids are happy and largely unaffected by whatever bullshit that goes on in my life outside of them.
Right.
If it comes to, we're not making enough money or we're living outside our means, I want to do everything in my power to ensure that they don't have to change their lifestyle in order to accommodate, how much money we got in our checking account, or whether or not they could go with their friends and things like that. So I make adjustments around, like I make adjustments and add and subtract things that only affect me, so that I could try to make ends meet, versus trying to take away the things that affect them. You're the guard at the gate, so you're gonna feel the impact. If it means you feeling the impact that they don't feel the impact, then that's what it is. Exactly. Yeah. Like if there's a sacrifice that they have to make, it's only a last choice, a last option. Yeah. But realistically, I would prefer that I make the change and I make the life choice that largely affects me, and I'll adjust because I feel like I'm tough and I can deal with that kind of thing, and I don't want to have to force my wife and kids to go through that kind of thing. So that's the effort that I make every day. If that's a life hack, then great. If not, well, how do you decide? How do you decide how to change? Or if you're down to, can you give me an example of something that you might have done? Not the reason why you had to do it, but maybe something that you've sacrificed that may or may not be a big deal. But to you, you've seen it impacted your family in a positive way by you doing that. I mean, shit, maybe you're changing the brand of toilet paper. For example, this isn't a big thing, but I got rid of satellite cable. Right. And I think that's that might have affected them a little bit because their programming gets taken away. But realistically, they spend more time on Netflix and YouTube and shit like that, to where I can find other means in terms of watching these fights or watching a ball game and things like that. Like I can get up off my ass and go to a sports bar if I really want to see the Knicks play ball. And so, and then if that doesn't affect them, then I think that's a win for me. And that can affect them in a positive way because they're going to find other ways to do what they need to do. I mean, I feel you on that too, because it's been a few months now and we've downgraded our cable.
You know what I'm saying? But we
Yeah.
also got a Fire Stick. You should get a Fire Stick if you don't already have one. But I mean,
I do have one.
Yeah, it's the shit. It's the shit when it works. It sucks though when the shit don't work. You're like, man, I just watched all the breaks. This is the last episode of the breaks I need to see. You'll start. Oh, all of a sudden there's no stream. Anyways. Watch the breaks, watch the get down, just side note. But yeah, I feel you, man. Like, really, you need to have this because it's so convenient. Go out of your way just a little bit and end up saving like a good amount of money monthly. And if that means you're putting that money somewhere else, great. If that means you're putting that money in a bank account to save, also great, possibly greater. And speaking on the TV shit in particular, some of y'all don't need to be watching TV at all. You know, maybe I'm one of those people, but we're not talking about me. Nah, I feel you, man. That's exactly what I'm looking for, man. Can I have an example of a success turned failure or a failure turned success? Either or.
Failure turned success or success turned failure. My relationship with my wife. And the reason why is because when we were really young and stupid, because when you're young, you're stupid. You know, we fought a lot. We went through a lot of trials that, were really tough on us. Even after the birth of our first child, you know, and we've had escalated arguments that, you know, where people have, you know, one or both of us have said things that we didn't mean and, you know, sounded like it could really hurt the other person. And, you know, we've grown from that. What started off as a failure, what seemed like we were forcing a relationship, grew and developed and really flourished because we learned from our mistakes. We reflected on the times that we hurt each other and learned how to approach a situation better, how to approach a discussion, an argument, or what have you better, to the point now where I feel it's like it's a success. Whereas before, I was saying stuff like, "Man, I just need to break up with this girl. I'm enough with this shit." So now, where I feel like if she wasn't in my life, I wouldn't know what I would do with myself.
Yeah, I feel you.
Because she's such, as much as she calls me her backbone, I think she's mine even more so because I feel like I depend on her for every moment of the day to feel strong. She's my strength. And without her, life would just feel so complicated and awkward to the point where I just wouldn't know what to do with myself. So I think that was a situation where what seemed like a failure at first turned into the most successful thing that I've ever developed.
I feel you, man. You know, I don't know if you've ever made like a house of cards and shit, but
I watch House of Cards on Netflix. That's a good show.
I've not seen it yet. Don't fuck up my point that I don't even have fully thought out yet. Let me try to get with this emotional deep shit. You put those two cards together won't stand without the other one. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that little triangle where they're leaning up against each other, and they are very much both the backbone to the shit. You know what I mean? If you want to look at it like that. But I feel you, man. Like you got to have the other one. That's just how it is. And there's people out there that like, because you could look at it something as simple as some people go to the gym because they go to the gym and they love it. Some people need a spotter. You know what I mean? Some people just want a spotter and don't need it. You know, there's all kinds of different people, but it seems like you and I are very much the same where, you know, I'm sure there's times where our personal things get, you know, in front when they shouldn't be. But for the most part, you know, I'm the chauffeur and this hip hop shit is in the back seat and I try to keep my family right with me. You know what I mean? So I feel what you're saying. With so much going on, how do you ensure execution rather than just an idea or something you want to do? You know, say you want to do something that may be beyond your means, but a little shuffling, little something, whatever it is. How do you ensure execution?
I impose deadlines on myself. One of the things that I really try to focus on is trying to set a date or a general area of time in the future to where I want to accomplish something. Like with MMA, for example. I gave myself a good long time to figure out if this was going to be something that I was going to take seriously and professionally. I gave myself 10 years. When I was 28 years old, 27, 28 years old, I told myself I was going to give myself 10 years to build this into something that is scalable and sustainable. And after that point, if it's not to a level that I feel like it really is scalable and sustainable, then I'd just give it up and I would stop doing it. From what it's looking like, 8-9 years in, I think I'm doing all right. So
that's good from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I try to. I've worked really hard in this industry to try to do things and try to do things that I want to do for me. And I think for the most part, I've been able to do that. I'm not going to say that it's been all sunshine and rainbows and it's been a perfect trek down through the park. It's been met with a lot of hard times and a lot of difficult situations. But I think, again, for the most part, I've been able to do this in that amount of time within the deadline that I imposed on myself. And I find myself doing that to a lesser extent in other areas of my life where I say, okay, I'm going to get this done by this time, or I'm going to put forward this effort and finish it by this date or this time. And, I think that really helps me. It motivates me because I know that I got, time taken away. And when I feel like I have time taken away, I got to put the hustle and bustle in and try to get things done.
Yeah, I feel that, man. With me, I also do a deadline. And like, say if it's a week to write a rhyme, let's say, I'll spend 6 days watching Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, and then on that last day, I'll knock it out. So you might be better at that than me, but I hear what you're saying. Nah, but real talk, man. Like, of course, there's bad shit that's gonna happen and struggling, and a lot of times years later, you look back at that struggle time, and you're like, that shit was actually fun times, But the dope thing about it is, there's obviously things that you would probably change and, things like that, but you get to do what you want to do. You're literally making money off your passion and you're flourishing. You have other things that you get to do, and you always have the option to do something completely left field, like this mandatory shit, and you always kind of got that comedic look at things, which, one thing I've learned about comics in these and I'm not saying you're a comic, but I feel like you and I have some different senses of humors from the average person. One thing about comics is like, there's always a little bit of darkness that drives the humor. And I feel like the humor balances out whatever negativity somebody has. And a lot of these people with no sense of humor, or just kind of like I don't know, I feel like they miss out on a lot more. They're not able to just appreciate life because, dude, embarrassing shit happens to me all the time, and I just laugh my ass off because it's funny. I'm like, yo, if I wish it was you, but it's still funny, dog. It's still funny. Like, you gonna laugh at me? I mean, as long as I'm not hurting you laughing with your phone out, like, it's all good. Like, you laughing, this shit was funny. I'm gonna slap you 5 and I'm gonna get on my way, And like,
right.
I feel like it ain't always that easy, but being able to laugh at the situation and just kind of having that sense of humor about it is another great thing that I'm blessed to have and shit. So I feel
absolutely. And just to build on that point, people need to take their sticks out their asses.
Oh God.
Because there's too many fucking people who take life so seriously, and it could get infuriating in times. And honestly, like, when I experience that kind of thing, I'm just like, I'm turning myself off to you. As of this point forward, you don't exist until you put a fucking smile on your face and realize that it's not the fucking end of the world.
You turn that frown upside down, sir.
For real, man. Like, I'm not trying to have you bring down my good time. I'm happy over here. Why are you trying to fucking make it dark?
How about this? Maybe that's too hard for some people. How about this? Be mad and pissed off, but don't feel obligated to comment and spread that mad and piss offness. Go ahead and keep it to yourself. Keep it to your immediate circle.
Go ahead and take it over there. I'll be over here waiting.
Definitely don't come on my thread and spread it. Like, we having fun over here, party pooper. Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Hashtag FOH. All right, I feel you. All right.
Fuck out of here.
Fucking, do you have any rules before deciding to collab with somebody or partner with somebody or even work with somebody?
Yeah, I think with any type of agreement, a partnership, relationship, you have to get to know somebody really well. Specifically to the editorial, with writing. I want to be able to write.
Hold up. Stop.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. You said, I want to be able to write.
I want to be able to write something that, or I want to be able to be part of a publication that represents me fairly well. MMA Weekly, I think, represents me very well because it covers sport, both in a serious news aspect and then the other comical side of me, which is hot sauce. So that does well. I think Mandatory gives me the opportunity to talk about other topics that I find interesting, like, that 13-year-old kid who has no arms but is able to bust threes better than you, or the ranking the retro sneakers that I felt are dope for the last couple of decades. Like, those are the kinds of things that I think represent me well. And when I have a platform that allows me to express those things, I think those are the kinds of things that I look for going in. Like, I wouldn't write for, a publication that, covered shit that I just wasn't into. Like, you're not going to find me covering golf on the Golf Channel, right? Because quite honestly, I don't watch a lot of the PGA Tour, and the only time I have a golf club is when I need to get the fuck out of the house and have a couple hours to myself.
Oh.
And I just
if somebody breaks into the house
very often and want to do golf.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the thing, is like, that's the kind of thing that I look for. If it's relatable, if it fits well with my personality, and if so, then that's when I move forward with it.
Dope. Yeah, that's really cool. I feel you. And another thing to say on top of that is, as a listener, everything, I feel 100% what you just said, but also on the flip side, to be with a place that feels the same way about the content you're putting out, because you represent them just as much as they represent you. And that's just another thing to be like, man, I really found a home and a place where I could be myself, which in turn is going to make you better, because if you can't be yourself fully, the more yourself you can be, the better you're going to be for you and the people you represent for. So that's dope.
Absolutely. And just, to tack onto that a little bit, like with Mandatory specifically, when I pitched them to try to write for them, they got back to me and said, it's obvious you're a good writer, but I think everything that you've ever written was solely about sports. Can you expand beyond that? If so, send us some pitches. So I sent them like 6 different pitches of just like shit that I thought was funny. Like, with President Trump tweeting all the time, I was like, okay, what would happen if Twitter was always around since the beginning of time? So I pitched them what presidents would tweet if Twitter always existed. So I've been developing that article myself, and they were blown away by that. I sent them that included, and they said, man, we got to have you on. Like, when they filled me out to make sure that I could fit with them, like, that was motivating to me. And it made me want to write for them even more. So I feel you on that front.
Yeah, that's dope, because you don't want just anything. Did you actually post that, or did they post that, or did it come out yet, or?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay, you got to shoot me that when it comes out.
It's going to have a lot of Photoshop editing that I've got to do. So, it's going to take some time to put it together, but eventually I'm going to, put it together with like Abraham Lincoln tweeting, going to go to the theater tonight.
Right.
Heard this Booth guy is pretty good. I'm a big fan.
Right. Word. Yeah. Please give me that when it's ready.
Absolutely.
Can you give me an example of a book, movie, essay, any kind of piece that just kind of, you feel helped you make a change in your life, maybe directly or indirectly, and something that somebody else could benefit from as well?
There is it was a piece of media. It was basically an interview between Bill Simmons, a guy named Bill Simmons. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I know his name, but tell me about him real fast.
Bill Simmons used to work at ESPN, and he built this like empire using podcasts and columns that he wrote from a very and then he left and started his own company.
It's like one of the OGs from the podcast game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. He was one of the first podcasts, and it just blew up. He's like the top sports podcaster on available.
He's possibly the first podcaster, I think. I may have my shit mixed up, but I believe so. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So when he branched off and did his own company, he kept doing the podcast thing, and he had Steve Ballmer on the podcast. Steve Ballmer is the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. He was formerly from Microsoft, and he left the company so that he could pursue purchasing, or not so he could pursue, but after he left the company, he purchased the Clippers for over $2 billion. Watching him at games makes you think, man, this guy really loves his team and enjoys his time there and is just as passionate as any hardcore Clipper fan. And then I heard him on the podcast, and the thing with Bill Simmons is that he's able to draw like the real personality out of the interview subject. And I think not only was he able to do that with Ballmer, but Ballmer was all about it. Like Ballmer was like talking with so much passion and so much enthusiasm about the product that he owns, about the Clippers, that it inspired me to be like, I will work for you no matter the job. Like, you inspire me to just, like, you want to make great things? I want to be part of that journey with you, whatever the fucking responsibility is. Just let me be with you and doing this great thing for a living. Like, that was the kind of thing that I think a lot of people, like, if they listen to Ballmer talk to Simmons, could potentially come out with the same feeling. Like, I went home that night and I told my wife, like, I want to work for Steve Ballmer somehow. And she's like, well, you should try it. And I was like, nah, babe, that's all the way in LA. We're out in Orange County now. I ain't commuting all that shit. But if we still lived out there, like, I would totally be into working for this man just because he's so inspirational.
That's dope. So, okay, I'll get the episode from you and I'll put that in the show note. I'll figure out whatever, and I'll get the link in the show notes for anybody who wants to check it out, because it sounds like something I want to check out too. We round in the end. This is a thing I call the top three. So it's can you give me one do, one don't, and one must have for you?
One do, one don't, one must have. Okay. I'll start with the do. Do what makes you happy.
Simple
and plain. Do what makes you happy. If making money makes you happy, then do whatever you got to do to make you happy. If being a writer makes you happy, don't worry about all the other bullshit that comes with you. Just write. Do it every day. If you just want to be an artist, if you want to paint every fucking day, do whatever you need to do in order to allow you the time to make a painting every fucking day. Do what makes you happy, because if you ain't happy, you're not taking care of you, and if you're not taking care of you, you're close to death.
Real shit. Okay,
and
now give me a don't.
Don't that's a tough one. There's a lot of things, because I do a lot of things.
Right. Well, what's something that you didn't do for a long time, and once you decided to, for a silly reason, once you decided to, it really made a change, and you were just like, damn, why didn't I do this sooner? How about that? And then maybe think of it like that, and maybe that'll give you a don't.
Hello?
Yeah. So you didn't hear any of that profound shit I just said. You got to have a don't in you somewhere.
Right.
Think about, like, what if you were to think about some of the things that you really wanted to do for a long period of time, and at the time you felt like there was a good reason not to? Maybe it's fear, intimidation, maybe it's lack of knowledge, or just insecurity. But once you finally did it, it really showed you, like, wow, I wish I'd have done this a long time ago. I feel like thinking like that may be able to bring out something.
Don't get into credit card debt.
Real talk. Some people don't get taught that, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's an obvious one. Don't get into credit card debt. But on the real, don't alienate yourself from the people who care about you.
Don't alienate yourself, yeah.
Exactly. There are people, it might not be a big crowd, but it may be a very big crowd. There are people that look out for you and want you in whatever you do. Don't turn your back on those people, because they will have your back for here until infinity. If you do, you're going to have what you don't want to have in life is a lot of regret. I learned that. Yeah, and I learned that with to touch back on my wife for a second. She is one of those people who, through all our trials and tribulations, learned that I'm one of those people for her, and I learned that she's one of those people for me, that we forever have each other's back.
Of course.
And if I were to alienate myself to somebody like that, life would be so miserable. So the people that love and care and have compassion for you are the people that you should devote your energy to.
I think it's obvious if by now at this point in our lives that those are the same people that we tend to take stuff out on, because they're the ones there for us. And, in a sense, they're there for that, but not in that way. I know for myself, it's something that I'm always trying to do better at is use them for what they're there for, or let them be there for you is a better way of saying it. But
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean that you should just take it out on them because they're there. There's got to be a better way that they can help you deal with that issue and shit. So definitely.
Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, man. Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Do those two things, and you'll come home to your lady wanting to hug and kiss her.
My wife just started her first kickboxing class today, and I'm hoping to start jiu-jitsu in the next month or two. It's been years since I've done jiu-jitsu, so I've been wanting to go back for a minute. I've been doing all right financially, so fortunately for us. So I'm about to look into it.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, hopefully I could take my son with me. He's 5 now, so he's ready. I think he's ready. So
absolutely. My son started at 4.
Nice.
So he's more than ready to do it, man. It's a very good thing for kids to get into. I'm very much for that.
My daughter's 8 months. I'm trying to get her started in the next month or 2.
She's gonna need it, man.
Yo, real talk. If you have a daughter, if you're a woman, I don't want to get graphic. I'll just throw it out there. Obviously, if there's somebody between your legs, you want to have full control of that. And jiu-jitsu is a great way to at least kind of even the odds a little bit at best.
You want to have your own gates of Mordor.
Yeah, real talk. And keep Smeagol's ass out. Anyways, all right. Did we do the did we do the must-have? Was that?
We did not do the must-have.
Okay, what's the must-have?
You must have... For me, a must-have, I must have time with my kids where we go out and do boy shit. Because I have 2 sons, and if there's a chance for us to go hoop, play some ball, or with my older son, we go to the movies. That's mine and his thing. I'm must have that. If there's a new movie that comes out, guaranteed, if one of the Star Wars movies comes out, he and I are there likely on opening night.
Nice.
That's one of the things that I have to do. My oldest is 9 and my youngest is 3.
Dope. That's dope.
So
man.
if I have that time with them, life is good. If I don't have that time with them, life sucks.
Life sucks for you and them.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that to them.
Real shit, man. All right, man. So that's it, pretty much. I got one more thing I'd like to have our guests leave our listeners with. Can you give some words to live by?
Always take care of yourself, and don't be ashamed of doing that.
Yeah.
Always try to, because and I think I mentioned it earlier. If you ain't taking care of yourself, you're suffering.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not in a happy place, you're not going to be able to take care of the people that are around you and the goals that you want to accomplish.
Straight up.
Take care of yourself, everything else will fall into place.
Real talk, man. I stand behind that 100%, man. That's it, dude. Man, I really appreciate you not only being on the show, but working through these technical difficulties that this Oxcord has forced me through. But
all good.
Also had a lot of fun just chopping it up with you, man. It's been way too long, dude. We're gonna make sure that We have all your information. Can you do me a favor and throw out, some links, some things you want people to check out? And if anybody wanted to get in contact with you, I should say, if you want anybody to get in contact with you, throw out your social media or whatever. And yeah, man, we'll get on out of here.
All right, for sure. You hit me up on Twitter at Lord Fonz, LORDFONZZ.
Hey.
Hey.
Word up. And what is that? MMAweekly.com and the hot MMA hot sauce?
Yeah, in the MMA hot sauce section. You'll find my stuff on the main page, though, especially tonight when I'm writing news recaps about the fights. So you can check it out there. You can check out mandatory.com for a variety of stuff, from like funny shit to, sexy girls that, other people write, but it's there for you if you're into that. Then, yeah, that's basically it.
If you're into that. You gotta be careful when you say shit like that. Anyways, all right, man. This is the Status Escalate
Podcast.
Write it
myself. I just know it's there.
Yeah.
That's
You use an alias.
That's not my
Nah, I feel you. Nah, man. Hey, dude, real talk, man. Much love. I appreciate having you on, dude. We'll definitely talk soon. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. It's the Status Escalate Podcast. Catch you next time. Peace to the colleagues. Yo, thank you for subscribing and tuning in to another episode of the Status Escalate Podcast. I appreciate your support and taking the time to leave reviews and giving me that 5-star rating. Please be sure to check out my other show, Proof of Life Radio, and my weekly rap video series, Bars Weekly, with Muds1 at barsweekly.com. Follow me on Twitter, IG, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, and all that. Everything at Kahlee 310. That's KAHLEE 310. And spread the word on your boy. I appreciate the love and support. Be sure to visit platformcollection.com for other great shows on the network, like my man 60 Show, Life on the Road with 60 East. Also, the 2Mex Hologram Podcast, Really Though, Crappy Awesome, Orchestrated, and of course my other show, Proof of Life Radio, plus more, man, all on the Platform Collection Network. Also, don't forget to check out 2Mex Hologram Radio at 2mexhologram.com. That's the 24-hour hip-hop radio channel with shows like Proof of Life Radio, Stereotypes, LA to the Bay, The Up, and more. Fresh and rare hip-hop 24 hours a day, available on TuneIn Radio or stream it directly to 2mexhologram.com. 2Mex Hologram Radio. Everything's about to change. Big thanks to my sponsors, deadstockcloset.com. Deadstock Closet specializes in vintage gear and accessories of all styles and brands. When you shop at deadstockcloset.com, you're going to receive your items ironed, cleaned, and ready to wear. No cigarette smell and pet hairs, just straight professional business with my folks over there. Man, use coupon code SE Podcast at checkout and get 10% off your purchase, plus you're going to get an additional discount on your next one. That's at deadstockcloset.com. Vintage flyness straight to your doorstep. Also, last but not least, thanks to StatusEscalate.com. Status Escalate is a PR company whose purpose is to create awareness for you as an artist and expand your brand. Status Escalate's been spreading the word on new up-and-coming hip-hop artists for years with a strong focus on hip-hop. Go to the contact section at StatusEscalate.com to discuss a package and rates. Let them know you heard about them through us and our podcast, and you get 50% off your first project. That's at StatusEscalate.com. I think that's about it, man. Shout out to everybody showing love. I really appreciate you continuing to share the episodes, leave comments, ratings, and reviews. Hit me up, everything at Kahlee 310. Make sure you're checking out Bars Weekly. That's barsweekly.com. You can see what we got going on every week. Me and my man Muds1. Proof of Life Radio every other Wednesday for that dope hip-hop. Man, and I guess that's about it, dude. I'll be back in 2 weeks with a new guest and more jewels for y'all. But until then, remember, you can plan for success, but you can't reach it without execution. Peace to the colleagues.
I put in work and watch my status escalate.
For the qualified pro in this business of rap. Qualified pro in this business of rap. Brought to you by PlatformCollection.com.